Hello, we have a video of two really very nice pictures. You can't sell these pictures and not be upfront about the nature of these pictures. They are Neapolitan School pictures, which is Italian school pictures. And when you say Neapolitan School, it obviously alludes to Naples. But within Neapolitan School, if you're talking about a picture of this age, you've moved away from the sort of shipwreck pictures of an early century. You moved into the sort of semi-touristic pictures or furnishings pictures, and these pictures show a very formulaic pair of scenes which were very popular from, for example, 1850 to 1950. And if you went to Naples, even in a cruise ship in the 40s or 50s, these would be the pictures in scale and composition and colourway that you would see, and it would be the same going back towards the middle of the 19th century. So you have some coding. Now the coding is things like the parasol pine, which translates into warmness and hot countryness. You've got things like the lake, the Alps, the castle, the picturesque element, the trees. You've got Vesuvius in eruption, and you have the sort of two peaks in the Bay of Naples. Naples in this picture is depicted as a very small fishing town, which of course that's what Naples was. It was a fishing town. You know, there's like one row of houses by the sea, and then farmland on the inside. Whereas of course Naples now is solid for 10 miles. You have, looks like the side of a fortification because it's angled. You have a farm. You have the parasol trees, you have the sea, you have a boulder, a couple. It's just interesting little pictures. I don't know whether this is painted, the location is. I think it's going to be, it's possibly in the middle of Sicily, but I think they're really using more of an alpine flavour. I don't recall having seen quite such a lot of glacial mountains on Sicily, so I think they're with this one, they're borrowing somewhat from other views. Now, Naples. When you think of Naples painters, you think of them painting men in white shirts with puffy arms, often half length, and you have actually got this type of puffy clothing going on in many of the pictures, and they have a way of painting the figures with very simple highlights, blotches of highlight. And it's a very pleasing, fluid, relaxed, happy form of painting. And then you have to look at the colours. The blues are very sort of chalky, turquoisey, bright blues. And with the blues you've got some pinky tones, which, as I've discussed in other videos, are really translating to warmness and heat and satisfying weather. You've got some clouds, which are very much in keeping with the feel, the relaxed, happy, picturesque, semi-bucolic nature of these pictures. Then you have the frames. Now the frames are in very good condition. They have been repaired and they have been regilded, but they haven't been regilded in a real gold leaf. It's a gold effect leaf. But the effect is pleasing. They have a semi-distressed look, and they are in good condition. They don't need any work. Right, so I said these pictures could have been painted in the 50s or back to the 1850s. Now these are very much back to the 1850s, and when you study on the market which are actually from that era, very few are the front runners, the early examples of these touristic paintings. Mountains of them are from the 20s, mountains of them are from the 50s and 40s, and they tend to be quite small, with quite garish, spindly, tasteless, tacky frames. But here you've got a canvas on a stretcher, which has a significant age. It just leaps out at you. But more importantly, you've got this pair of frames, which are obviously old frames. They've got to be 1850 or 60. Okay, they could be 70s or 80s, as could the picture, but I think they are early ones. I think they're 1850. You've got some very nice little gilt brass or gilded steel hooks, which have never been taken out. They're still there, and the other one, it's the same. You've got these patches, which are bits of paper stuck on. They're not professional repairs, but they are repairs, and they would have been done probably by the owner of the pictures. You know, children throw things, and when you move home, things get broken. This one here, the same sort of thing. You've got really nice old frame. It's got to be Victorian, early Victorian. Another canvas, not quite the same texture of canvas. So they're the same sort of size. I'm not sure if they're exactly the same size, but the same sort of size. And the frames obviously go very well together as a pair. So we have to discuss the aspects of pairs and size. Now, when you have a lone picture, you know, I like a lone picture. But when you have two pictures, then you're in a different league, and as I've said elsewhere, you know, your decorative options are really wide, and the impactfulness of a pair of pictures is off the scale. You know, you get you don't get 2 daisies, you get much more than that. You get a profound effect. Now, when you buy pairs of pictures, you have to be careful that they actually do tie in together. Now, certainly the frames tie in together, and certainly here they're of the same sort of origin and style and colourway and mood. You sometimes see a pair of portraits which are framed as a pair, but they might not be a pair of portraits. So you have to be aware that there are some pairs which are not pairs. I think that these are a very, very, very good pair of Victorian Neapolitan School landscapes. There are quite a lot around, but when you look at them, some of them are later, and that means that the style evolves somewhat, and as I say, you get into this sort of tacky, cheapy tawdriness, and that's comes across in the figures, it comes across in the frames, comes across in the whole feel. So, I mean, I really do like these, and I could quite happily live with them. You know, in your lounge or in the hallway. I mean, those are such a pleasant demeanour and effect that you know they're good. They're good pictures. Now, of course, every picture dealer is going to say, "Oh, it's a good picture. It's a good picture," but you know, these really are good pictures, and they're not too small. They're not big pictures. They're really not big pictures, but they're when you look at pairs, you know your options are slim. You can go and buy big brown or black still lives. In fact, last week in the Sowens here, there were several pairs, but you know they're dark. They have a lot of them have a very, unfortunately, a lot of the in the Sowens, a lot of the pairs have a crustiness. They have what I would describe as a scalloped painted finish. They are flaked. The flakes have been stuck on with varnish. It's like a crocodile skin. When you get the shine, it's ripply, and they say, "Oh, it can be repaired, it can be cleaned." No, they can't. I'm sorry, they can't. If you have an old painting with a crocodile skin, crackliness, you know, I'm afraid it's an interesting thing to have, and of course I like them and I have sold them, but to live with them, it's you don't want to look at it. You know, you really don't. You want to look at a canvas which is like that. That's what we want. And just while we're doing that, we'll talk about very briefly touching pictures. Now, in my videos, I'm always touching the pictures. If a woman goes to a market and buys a melon, they touch the melon skin. If a sheep dealer goes to a market in England to buy sheep, he will feel the sheep's flesh. And I'm afraid, whatever they tell you, if you're going to own a picture or enjoy a picture, you must be a hands-on dealer. If you go into an auction, because we're talking about auctions, to be honest, people buy from auctions and they buy from dealers. But if you go to sell and you do that, you know the canvas is okay. If you get a cloddy, thuddy thing, you might be looking at oil on board or oil on paper. So use your fingers. I use the back of my hand. I use my nails, and I can hear the picture. You can do the same with the frame. You can tell whether it's plaster, which is soft and breaks easily, or you can tell whether it's gesso, which is impregnated with glue and is so hard you really wouldn't believe it. You can sometimes hear if it's MDF or hollow. Sometimes see plastic frames. So touch the picture, and why not? Yeah, I mean, I will say to the auction, can I touch it? And they'll nod. But people will look at you like you're stealing it. So I hope I've given you some interesting comments, and I would only put my name to, if I said something's very, very good, then I'm not going to put my name very, very good to a picture that's not very, very good. There's good, there's nice, it's interesting, there's lots of terms, but these are such a nice pair of pictures. My God, they're lovely. Thank you.